For 3,000 years, the galaxy had forgotten about Earth. It was nothing more than a legend, a ghost from a past war. The records did not even mention its name. It had been wiped from history, as if humanity had never existed. But those who escaped never forgot. They had been waiting, hiding, preparing. Now, the wait was over. A massive fleet of warships emerged from the darkness of space, their hulls black as the void. These ships carried the last children of Earth, the survivors, the exiles. At the front of the fleet stood Commander Dane, a man who had spent his life preparing for this moment. His eyes, cold and sharp, stared at the massive blue planet ahead, the first target. "Status?" Dane asked. His second in command, Ronan, checked the displays. "We are hidden from their scanners. No sign they detected us." Dane nodded. "Good. They think we are dead. Let's show them we are not." The enemy planet ahead, Valkyr 7, was once a minor colony, but now it was a major supply world for the Sci-Fi Dominion, the empire that destroyed Earth long ago. The Dominion ruled the galaxy, believing themselves unbeatable. They never expected humans to return. Dane clenched his fist. "After today, they will fear us again." The plan. The fleet carried thousands of soldiers, trained for war, equipped with the best weapons humanity had ever built. Their ships were smaller than Dominion warships, but faster, deadlier. The plan was simple. Strike hard, strike fast, leave nothing behind. "Ronan, begin the operation," Dane ordered. Ronan nodded. "Yes, Commander. Fighters, move out." Small, sleek attack ships launched from the fleet, flying toward Valkyr 7 like silent shadows. They slipped past the planetary defenses before the alarms even triggered. Then the first explosions tore through the enemy bases. Fire and smoke rose into the sky as Dominion forces scrambled to react. But it was already too late. The first kill. On the ground, Dominion soldiers ran in panic. They had never seen humans before. Their history books claimed humanity was extinct. Yet now, here they were, dressed in black armor, their rifles humming with deadly energy. A Dominion officer shouted, "We are under attack." By who? A human soldier, Liam, stepped forward, his rifle aimed. His voice was calm, steady. "By ghosts." Then he fired. Blasts of energy ripped through the Dominion troops. The battle was over before it began. Above, the fleet rained fire from the sky, destroying every major outpost, every weapon factory, every supply station. The humans moved like a storm, unstoppable, merciless. Within hours, Valkyr 7 was nothing but ruins. Dane stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the destruction. He felt no joy, no satisfaction, only purpose. This was just the beginning. "Send a message to the Dominion," Dane said. "Let them know who we are." Ronan smiled grimly. What should the message say? Dane turned toward the stars, his voice like steel. "We are humanity. We remember, and we have returned. The war begins." Across the galaxy, Dominion rulers received the message. At first, they laughed. Humans? Impossible. But then the reports came. Real, undeniable. A Dominion world had fallen in a single night. The laughter stopped. The fear began. For 3,000 years, the Dominion had ruled without challenge. Now, the forgotten race had returned, and they wanted revenge. The message had been sent. The war had begun. On every Dominion world, alarms blared. High-ranking officials gathered in secret rooms, their voices filled with disbelief and fear. The name humanity had not been spoken in thousands of years. To them, humans were nothing more than an old legend, something their ancestors had wiped out long ago. But now, humanity was back, and they wanted vengeance. Inside the archive, Commander Dane stood in a dark room deep inside Valkyr 7's main archive station. The battle outside was over. The Dominion forces had been crushed. Now he had a different mission. to uncover the truth. The Dominion had erased all records of Earth, but Dane knew the truth was still hidden somewhere. If he could find it, he would know who gave the order to destroy his home, and they would pay. "Ronan, find me everything about the war with humanity," Dane ordered. Ronan, working at a console, hacked into the Dominion database. "I'm searching, but their records are heavily encrypted. They'd really wanted to erase us from history." Dane's jaw tightened. "Keep looking." Minutes passed. Then suddenly, Ronan's screen flickered. "I found something." Dane moved closer. The screen displayed an old document, written in the Dominion's language. The title sent a chill through him. "Final Order: The Cleansing of Earth." Dane's hands clenched into fists. "Open it." Ronan pressed a few keys. The document played an old video. The screen showed a Dominion War Council. At the center sat an alien with golden armor and cold eyes. He was taller than the others, his presence commanding. "Who is that?" Dane asked. Ronan's face darkened. "That is High Lord Kale, ruler of the Dominion minus 3,000 years ago. He was the one who gave the order to destroy Earth." Dane's heart pounded. Kale. The name burned into his mind. In the video, Kale stood before his generals. His voice was filled with arrogance. "The humans are too dangerous. They are not the strongest, but they are the most stubborn. They will never submit, so we must erase them completely. Not just their people, but their history. In 1,000 years, no one will remember they even existed." Dane's breath was heavy. His hands trembled. "Burn their world. Hunt down the survivors. End their story forever." The video ended. For a moment, there was silence. Then, Dane slammed his fist against the console. "They thought they could erase us." His voice was cold, filled with rage. "But we're still here, and we remember." Ronan looked at him. "Kale is dead. He died long ago." Dane exhaled. "Then whoever sits on his throne now will pay for his crimes." He turned to the fleet's communication officer. "Send this message to every Dominion world. Let them hear their ancestors' words. Let them see what they did to us." The officer nodded. Moments later, the old recording was broadcasted across the stars. And the galaxy listened. The Dominion reacts. Across Dominion space, leaders panicked. Some were too young to even know what a human was. Others had heard whispers of a war long ago, but never believed it was real. Now, the truth was out. The current ruler of the Dominion, Emperor Darek, sat in his throne room watching the video. His advisors stood behind him, whispering in fear. One of them spoke. "My lord, if the humans have returned, they will come for us next." Darek's face was pale, his hands gripping the throne tightly. "How strong are they?" "We don't know," another advisor admitted. "They disappeared for 3,000 years. We thought they were extinct. But now, they have returned with a fleet, and they took Valkyr 7 in one night." Darek stood up. "Send word to every Dominion world. Prepare our defenses. I will not let a forgotten race bring down my empire." But deep inside, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. The war moves forward. Back on Valkyr 7, Dane walked through the ruins of the Dominion base. His soldiers stood ready, their faces hard with determination. "We know who destroyed our world," Dane said, his voice strong. "We know who tried to erase us." He looked at his soldiers, at the fleet behind them. They had waited thousands of years for this moment. "We will take their empire apart, world by world, until there is nothing left." His soldiers raised their weapons in salute. Their war had begun, and the Dominion would soon learn the truth. You cannot kill a ghost. You cannot erase the past, and humanity always comes back. The galaxy was in shock. For 3,000 years, no one had spoken the name humanity. Now their name echoed across every Dominion world. The video of High Lord Kel's order to destroy Earth had spread like wildfire. People saw the truth. The Dominion had erased an entire race, but that race had survived. And now, they were back for revenge. The Dominion's rulers tried to calm the panic, but fear had already taken hold. And then, humanity struck again. The next target. Inside his flagship, Commander Dane stood before a glowing map of Dominion space. The first battle had been a success, but this was just the beginning. Valkar 7 was only a warning, Dane said, his voice calm but firm. Now we hit something bigger. Ronan, his second in command, nodded. The Dominion has started moving their fleets. They think they can trap us. Dane smirked. Let them try. He pointed at the map. A planet named Xyrus 3 lit up. This is our next target, Dane said. It's a major fuel supply world. If we take it, the Dominion's warships will be stranded. They won't be able to chase us. Ronan studied the data. Xyrus 3 is heavily guarded. A direct attack would be risky. Dane's eyes burned with determination. Then we don't attack directly. We strike from the inside. Infiltration. Hours later, a small team of human soldiers landed on Xyrus 3, hidden inside stolen Dominion transport ships. They moved like shadows, slipping past guards, hacking into security systems, planting explosives in key locations. The Dominion soldiers had no idea humans were already among them. Liam, one of the best infiltrators, spoke through his earpiece. Charges set. We're in position. Dane's voice came through. Wait for my signal. Above the planet, the human fleet waited in silence. Then Dane gave the order. Detonate. The explosion. Fire erupted across Xyrus 3. Fuel depots exploded, turning the sky into a storm of fire and smoke. Dominion warships docked at the spaceport were caught in the blast, their hulls cracking apart. Panic spread through the Dominion forces. Alarms blared. Soldiers ran for cover. But before they could react, the human fleet attacked. Dane's warships roared through the chaos, their cannons tearing through Dominion defenses. Fighters weaved between burning wreckage, picking off enemy ships one by one. On the ground, Liam and his team struck hard, disabling anti-air weapons and cutting off enemy reinforcements. The Dominion forces tried to fight back, but they were overwhelmed. Within hours, Xyrus 3 had fallen. Another Dominion world burned. The message. Dane stood in the command center of the captured base, looking at the Dominion prisoners. He stepped forward, his voice calm but cold. You thought we were gone, he said. You thought you could erase us. He gestured to the ruins around them. Now you see the truth. One of the prisoners, a high-ranking Dominion officer, glared at him. You are monsters. Dane leaned closer. No, we are the ghosts of the past, and we have come to haunt you. He turned to his crew. Send the message to every Dominion world. Let them know Xyrus 3 has fallen. Ronan smirked. What should the message say? Dane's eyes burned with fury. Run. The fear spreads. Across the Dominion, fear grew. 2 major worlds had fallen. The Dominion was supposed to be invincible. Now, they were losing. In the Dominion capital, Emperor Derek slammed his fist on the table. How is this happening? His generals hesitated. One finally spoke. The humans. They fight like no one we have ever faced. They strike from the shadows. They do not fight for land or resources. They fight for vengeance. Derek's hands trembled. Then we must crush them before they grow stronger. He turned to his advisors. Summon the Black Legion. If humans want war, we will give them one. The advisors paled. The Black Legion was the Dominion's deadliest army. For centuries, they had wiped out any rebellion, any enemy. But this time, their enemy was not afraid to die. Humanity's next move. Back on the human flagship, Dane and his commanders studied their next target. The Dominion will not sit back anymore, Ronan said. They will come for us. Dane nodded. Let them come. We are ready. He looked at the stars. at the vast empire that had once crushed his people. This is only the beginning, and the war for vengeance continued. The war had begun. 2 Dominion worlds had fallen, and the once mighty empire was shaken. For the first time in thousands of years, they faced an enemy that would not stop, would not surrender. Humanity had returned from the ashes, and they were not alone. Now, it was time to gather the forgotten. A call across the stars. Commander Dane stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the endless void of space. The first battles had been victories, but the war was far from over. The Dominion still controlled thousands of worlds, and their fleets outnumbered humanity's forces 100 to 1. "We cannot win this war alone," Dane said. "We need allies." His second-in-command, Ronan, nodded. "There are still human survivors out there, colonies that escaped the destruction of Earth, but they have been in hiding for centuries. They may not trust us." Dane's expression was firm. "Then we will show them that the time for hiding is over." He turned to the communications officer. "Send a message. Let every lost human colony hear our words." Moments later, a signal was broadcast across the stars. "To all those who still remember Earth, we are alive. We are fighting. Join us, and together, we will make the Dominion pay for what they did." Then they waited. The lost colonies. Days passed. The fleet drifted in the emptiness, hoping for a response. Then one came. A small ship arrived from deep space, old and rusted but still flying. It carried a group of humans, survivors from a hidden colony called Haven 4. Their leader, an older man named Grant, stepped forward. "We thought we were the last ones," Grant said. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "For centuries, we lived in fear, always hiding. And now you tell us we can fight back." Dane nodded. "Not just fight back. Win." Grant looked at the fleet behind Dane, at the soldiers standing strong, at the weapons ready for war. He saw something he had not seen in centuries: hope. "You have our support," Grant said. "Haven 4 will stand with you." One by one, more messages arrived. From hidden colonies, from human outposts, from those who had thought they were alone. Humanity was rising again. The forgotten allies. But humans were not the only ones who had suffered under the Dominion. There were other races, smaller civilizations, broken and enslaved, crushed by the Empire's rule. They had no power to resist. Until now. Dane sent messages to them as well. "The Dominion has ruled you with fear, but fear can be broken. Stand with us, and together, we will bring them down." Some hesitated. They did not believe humans could win. But others, those who had lost everything, saw an opportunity for revenge. A warrior race called the Tauric sent a fleet. They had once been proud fighters, but the Dominion had turned them into slaves. Now they had a chance to fight again. A group of brilliant engineers from Vesker 12 offered their help. They had spent years designing ships and weapons for the Dominion. Now, they would build for humanity instead. The resistance was growing, and the Dominion was starting to realize that their enemy was no longer just a forgotten race. It was a storm. The enemy strikes back. But the Dominion was not blind. They saw what was happening, and they would not let it continue. Emperor Derek stood in the war chamber of the Dominion capital, his face dark with anger. "The humans are uniting the weak against us," he growled. "We must crush them now before they become unstoppable." A Dominion general stepped forward. "The Black Legion is ready, my lord. Just give the order." Derek's eyes burned with hatred. "Find their fleet. Wipe them out." The Black Legion, the Dominion's deadliest warriors, had been unleashed. And they were heading straight for Dane's fleet. The coming storm. On the bridge of his flagship, Dane looked at the reports. "The Dominion has found us," Ronan said grimly. "They're sending the Black Legion." Dane's face was calm. "Then let them come." He looked at the growing fleet behind him. Ships from lost colonies, warriors from enslaved races, people who had lived in fear for too long. No more running. No more hiding. We will not break. The final war had begun. The Dominion had waited long enough. Humanity had struck twice, taking Valkyr 7 and Xyros 3, shaking the Empire's confidence. But the Dominion was not weak. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years through power, fear, and one unstoppable force: the Black Legion. Now, they were coming for vengeance. A silent arrival. Dane stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the vast darkness of space. The fleet had grown stronger. Lost human colonies had joined. Old enemies of the Dominion had allied with them. But the war was far from over. "Any word from our scouts?" Dane asked. Ronan, his second-in-command, checked his screen. His expression darkened. "Something isn't right." Our scouts went silent. Dane's instincts screamed danger. "Show me their last location." A glowing map appeared, showing the last known position of their scouts, right outside Targus 9, a lifeless moon. Then the screen flickered. A signal had just arrived. A transmission from one of the scouts. Dane played it. The screen showed a blurry image. A soldier's face appeared. His helmet cracked, blood on his forehead. His voice was weak, filled with fear. "They found us. We didn't see them coming." They. A loud noise. A shadow moved behind him. Then, static. The message cut off. Silence filled the room. Dane's jaw tightened. "They're here." The first attack. Moments later, alarms blared across the fleet. Ships detected movement, a fleet approaching fast. But there were no signals, no warnings. The Dominion's usual warships always sent messages before attacking, but these ships were silent. Then the first explosion hit. A shockwave rocked the fleet as the Black Legion struck. Their ships were black, moving like shadows in space, weapons firing with deadly precision. They didn't waste time with threats or warnings. They came to destroy. "Shields up," Ronan shouted. The battle had begun. A fight in the dark. Dane's fleet responded, firing back with everything they had. But the Black Legion moved differently from the usual Dominion soldiers. They were fast, disciplined, brutal. Their ships cut through the battlefield like blades, dodging fire, destroying smaller ships with ease. One by one, human ships exploded. On the ground of a nearby station, Dane's soldiers fought against Black Legion troopers, elite warriors in dark armor, moving like ghosts, striking with deadly precision. Liam, one of Dane's best fighters, ducked behind cover as laser fire ripped through the walls. "These guys aren't like normal Dominion soldiers," he shouted. "They don't feel fear," another soldier yelled. A Black Legion trooper leaped forward, moving faster than any normal warrior, grabbing a human soldier and slamming him against the wall. A knife flashed. Blood spilled. Dane saw it all from the bridge. His people were dying. If he didn't act fast, they would be wiped out. The counterattack. Dane's mind raced. The Black Legion was too strong in a direct fight. They had to change the battlefield. "Shut off all lights," Dane ordered. Ronan turned to him, confused. "What?" "Turn off the lights," Dane repeated. "If they fight in the shadows, then we'll fight in complete darkness." Ronan hesitated but obeyed. Across the fleet, human ships powered down their external lights. The battlefield became a sea of darkness. Then, Dane activated thermal vision systems. His soldiers could now see in the dark, but the Black Legion could not. The battle turned. Now the Black Legion warriors moved slower, confused by the lack of visibility. Human soldiers struck back, using their advantage. Ships repositioned, launching surprise attacks from the shadows. One by one, Black Legion ships fell. Their perfect coordination was now broken. Victory in the shadows. Minutes felt like hours. But slowly, the Black Legion began to lose ground. Their forces were not built for confusion. They were built for overwhelming strength. And humanity had turned their greatest strength into a weakness. The last of the Black Legion's ships tried to escape, but Dane's fleet was ready. The final enemy warship exploded, lighting up the battlefield for one last moment, before vanishing into the void. The battle was over. Humanity had won. A message to the Dominion. Dane stood in the war room, watching reports come in. The Black Legion had been defeated, something no one had ever done before. He turned to Ronan. "Send a message to the Dominion." Ronan smirked. "What should we say?" Dane's eyes burned with cold fury. "Your strongest soldiers have fallen. We are coming for the rest." The war was far from over. But for the first time, the Dominion knew fear. The Dominion was no longer untouchable. Humanity had returned, and now, even the Black Legion had fallen. The galaxy whispered in fear and awe. The impossible had happened. An empire that had ruled for thousands of years was being torn apart. But Dane knew the war was far from over. The Dominion still had countless fleets, countless soldiers, and their greatest weapon was yet to be used. The Emperor himself. The Emperor's rage. In the massive throne room of the Dominion capital, Emperor Darek sat in silence, his claws gripping the armrests of his blackened throne. Around him, his advisors and generals trembled, afraid to speak. The destruction of the Black Legion had shaken them all. The humans. Derek's voice was low, filled with restrained fury. They dared to challenge us. One of his generals stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the humans fight like no enemy we have faced before." They. Derek moved in a blur, his hand wrapping around the general's throat. With one powerful squeeze, he crushed his neck and let the lifeless body fall to the floor. "They are nothing," Derek roared, "and nothing will not defeat me." He stood, his crimson cape flowing behind him. His golden eyes burned with rage. "Prepare the Doombringer fleet. We will strike back." Humanity's next move. On board his flagship, Dane studied the latest reports. His forces had won many battles, but they were still outnumbered. The Dominion was sending everything they had. "We can't fight them forever," Ronan said, arms crossed. "Their numbers are endless." Dane's expression remained calm. "We don't need to fight forever. We need to end this war." Ronan frowned. "You mean, take the fight to their capital?" Dane nodded. "Yes. We go straight for the heart. If we take down Emperor Darek, the Dominion will collapse." Liam, standing nearby, exhaled sharply. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Dane admitted, "but it's our only chance." Ronan smirked. "Then we better make it count." The infiltration. The plan was bold. The Dominion expected another fleet battle, but humanity had something else in mind. A small elite strike team. Dane, Ronan, Liam, and a handful of others would infiltrate the Dominion capital, sneak into the palace, and kill the Emperor. It was madness. But madness had kept humanity alive for 3,000 years. Dressed in stolen Dominion armor, they landed on the capital world undetected. The streets were filled with fear. The people had heard of the humans' return, of their unstoppable attacks. Dane and his team moved quickly, avoiding patrols, blending into the crowds. The palace loomed ahead, a fortress of black stone and towering spires. The final battle was about to begin, face to face with a monster. After slipping past guards, hacking security, and sneaking through hidden tunnels, the team finally reached the Emperor's throne room. The massive doors opened, and there he was. Emperor Darek. He stood tall, his golden eyes glowing with fury. His armor was deep crimson, lined with ancient symbols of power. "I was expecting an army," Darek said, his voice calm. "Instead, you bring a handful of insects." Dane stepped forward, gun raised. "Insects? Funny. I remember when you called humans extinct." Darek smirked. "I will correct that mistake today." Then he moved. The battle. Darek was fast, faster than any creature Dane had ever seen. In the blink of an eye, he was upon them, his energy blade slicing through the air. Liam barely dodged as the blade cut through a pillar like butter. Dane fired, but Derek deflected the bullets with unnatural speed. He leaped, kicking Ronan across the room, sending him crashing into a wall. "You cannot defeat me," Derek said, his voice filled with arrogance. "I am power itself." Dane gritted his teeth. This wasn't going to be a normal fight. They needed a different plan. The trap. Dane reached into his vest, pressing a small button on a hidden device. Instantly, hidden explosives, planted throughout the throne room earlier, activated. A deafening explosion ripped through the palace. The ceiling cracked, fires spread, and dust filled the air. Derek staggered, caught off guard. Dane seized the moment. Charging forward, he grabbed Derek's own energy blade from the ground, twisting it, using the Emperor's own weapon against him. With one final brutal thrust, he drove the blade straight through Derek's chest. The Emperor gasped, golden eyes wide in shock. "You cannot," Derek whispered. Dane leaned in, his voice cold. "Humanity always finds a way." With a final push, he drove the blade deeper. The mighty Emperor Derek, the ruler of the Dominion, the butcher of Earth, fell to his knees. And then he fell forever. The end of the Dominion. The news spread like wildfire. The Emperor was dead. Without their leader, Dominion forces lost their will to fight. Some tried to hold on to power, but their empire was crumbling. Rebellions ignited across countless worlds. Former slaves rose up. The Dominion was finished, and humanity stood victorious. On the bridge of his flagship, Dane watched the stars, knowing one thing for sure. The war was over. But their story had just begun. The Dominion had fallen. For 3,000 years, they ruled with an iron fist, crushing worlds, enslaving races, and wiping out those who stood in their way. They had destroyed Earth, believing they had ended humanity forever. But humanity had survived. And now they had won. The aftermath. Dane stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the shattered Dominion capital through the massive viewport. Fires burned across the city, smoke rising into the sky. The palace, once a symbol of power, now lay in ruins. Reports flooded in. The Dominion fleets had surrendered. Their armies, leaderless, had fallen into chaos. Many of their enslaved worlds had already declared independence. "We did it," Ronan said, stepping beside him. His uniform was torn, a bandage wrapped around his arm, but his eyes were filled with pride. "It's over." Dane exhaled, the weight of the war still heavy on his shoulders. "Not yet." Ronan frowned. "What do you mean?" "The Emperor is dead. The Dominion is crumbling. What else is there?" Dane turned, his voice serious. "We destroyed an empire. Now we have to build something better." The broken galaxy. The galaxy was in chaos. Without the Dominion, many planets were free. But freedom didn't mean stability. Some worlds had been ruled by the Dominion for so long that they didn't know how to govern themselves. Others fell into internal conflicts. Pirates and warlords rose, trying to take control. Old rivalries between alien races reignited. Liam shook his head as he read the latest reports. "We removed the monster, but now 100 smaller ones are taking its place." Dane knew this would happen. An empire did not die peacefully. But he also knew humanity could not walk away. "If we leave now," he said, "another empire will rise. Maybe worse than the Dominion." Ronan crossed his arms. "So what's the plan?" "We rule the galaxy ourselves." Dane shook his head. "No, we don't become tyrants. We help the others stand on their own. A council, made up of all the free races. No more empires, just unity." Liam raised an eyebrow. "And what if they don't agree?" Dane's expression was firm. "Then we make them understand. A new alliance." It wasn't easy. Many alien leaders feared humanity, still remembering the wrath they had unleashed on the Dominion. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted to take advantage of the power vacuum. Dane and his allies traveled from world to world, speaking with rulers, negotiating, promising peace, but making it clear that humanity would not allow another empire to rise. Some resisted, some tried to fight, but the lesson of the war was fresh. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Slowly, the new alliance formed. The Galactic Union, a council of all free civilizations where no single race held absolute power. A system built on cooperation, not fear. And at its head, not as rulers, but as protectors, stood humanity. The last battle. Not everyone accepted the new order. A Dominion warlord named Varrock, a former general under Emperor Darek, had gathered the last remnants of the Dominion fleet. He refused to surrender, believing the Dominion could still be rebuilt. He had one last weapon, a super weapon hidden on a distant moon, powerful enough to destroy entire planets. "If I cannot rule," Varrock declared, "then I will burn the galaxy down." Dane and his fleet moved quickly. The final battle of the war took place above the dead world of Tyros 9. Varrock's fleet was smaller, but they fought with desperation, knowing this was their last stand. Laser fire lit up the void. Ships exploded in flames. Humanity's fleet, now joined by their new allies, fought together, proving that the old era was over. Dane himself led the final assault, boarding Varrock's warship. The fight was brutal, but in the end, Varrock fell. The last remnant of the Dominion died with him. The war was truly over. A new dawn. Months passed. The galaxy healed. The Galactic Union was officially formed. Worlds that had never trusted each other before now stood side by side. For the first time in history, there was no empire ruling through fear. There was only unity. Dane stood on the balcony of a newly built council hall, overlooking a city filled with people from dozens of different races, walking together, not as enemies, but as allies. Liam leaned beside him. "You think this will last?" Dane smiled. "Maybe. Maybe not. But at least for now, we've given the galaxy a choice." Ronan chuckled. "And what about us? What does humanity do now?" Dane looked up at the stars. "We go forward, not as conquerors, not as survivors, but as builders." Humanity had returned, and this time they would shape the future.